community, right? So if you've been in Detroit is different, you definitely probably, it ain't no way you ain't familiar with this. So next door to Central High School for the longest of time was Durfee. Durfee is for show right there, but right now it's an innovation center that's been going on for years and years. And people know it as Life Remodeled. So you've been in my neighborhood and didn't even necessarily know it. Welcome to it. And that's led by the brother that's in studio that I've already found out other connections culturally. And we're going to get into that. Diallo Smith, how are you today?
Man, I am doing well, Kari. How you feeling?
All is well, man. All is well. I already
Great.
got like a couple that, from the pre-conversation, and we're going to get there, but I always got to start with the roots. Your
Sure.
family in Detroit,
Yeah.
How many generations do y'all go back to being here?
3.
Okay.
Both from my mother's side and my father's side, like many Detroiters here, came from the South.
Okay.
Father's side came from Kentucky. Mother's
Okay.
side came from Arkansas.
Okay, those are two states, as I always say with migration patterns, that we usually don't get a lot of folks up this way. So let's go to, and I got some folks from Arkansas too.
Yeah.
Let's go Kentucky first. Kentucky, whereabouts?
Louisville, or right outside Louisville. Yeah.
Okay.
My father and my great uncle.
Okay.
They fought in the war, World War II, and then landed here
Okay.
after that, looking for employment, and got lucky. My grandfather got a job at Ford, and
All right.
that really was the entryway into us being here, at least on my father's side, in the Detroit area for as many generations that we've been here. It started off in Conant Gardens.
Oh, man. Okay, we're definitely going to touch on that, but
Yeah.
I always got to highlight, when we hear Louisville, I think most of the world probably thinks Muhammad Ali, as they should. But also, from Detroit, I always think the great, did I say something? Fred Sampson, Tabernacle Church. So if you of the era, you kind of know that connection because the Sampsons came up way at Louisville as well. And if you ever go to Louisville, a lot of things going on, but it is the South.
It is the South.
Yep. Arkansas too. Whereabouts?
Yeah, small town right outside of Pine Bluff.
Okay.
My mother's side, they were sharecroppers. And my great grandmother, and I like to say it this way to give respect to our ancestors. People sometimes romanticize sharecropping and the Great Migration. Many of the people who came from the South who were sharecropping escaped.
Yes.
Because the landowners at that time were not trying to have their workers leave, and so my great grandmother escaped with my grandmother and her sister to oh gosh, where'd they stop at first? Midwest, and then my grandmother in 1942 made her way to Detroit, looking for a job, looking for an opportunity. And one thing I say about her, she was very instrumental for me in my upbringing. She was what some would call the help her whole life. Of course, came here looking for a better opportunity, but ended up doing what she had been doing most of her life, day working and taking care of homes. But she leveraged those responsibilities and those experiences to find a way for my mother to be able to get into college.
Wow, that is a phenomenal story, and definitely as you speak of sharecropping, and some stories over time about sharecropping here at Detroit is different. I think one of the more impactful ones that stands out is at one point in time, the leader of the Detroit Economic Growth Corporation, Roderick Miller. Right now, he is the county executive in Dade County. You know what I'm saying? So shout out to Roderick. Yeah. But from that small Mississippi town, so people kind of get an idea of what sharecropping is, and also the very unbalanced leverage in this. So often, many of our ancestors would end up in or very close to the plantations in which their families or themselves were enslaved at one point in time. And the concept is we share the crop. You work the land, I own the land. It's said all right, look, you give us 100 potatoes a day. Of these 100 potatoes, we'll go through the ones that we can use and the ones we can't use. We'll split it 50-50. Oftentimes, every one of them 100 potatoes was amazing and they could use and they would sell and they would profit from, but you'd only get credit for 2 or 3. And also in this power dynamic, especially we're thinking about, the rise of a Ku Klux Klan and that same post-Reconstruction American South that still kept many Union soldiers to look at another uprising from the Confederate Army. Those Jim Crow laws come and a lot of things change. And I mean, who you gonna talk to? You know what I'm saying? I mean, people would definitely say the court system then definitely ain't in your favor, but some may say, I'm part of sometimes the sum, the court system now may not be in your favor, especially if you ain't got representation. So yeah, a lot of the horrors of that same debts would be on the people keeping you in sharecropping because it's like, hey, you haven't picked or you have not provided the crops you were supposed to provide.
Yeah, yeah, it was, some people will call it a low grade slavery
It
in some ways.
very, very much so. Very much so.
But I also think that, when I think about Detroit City proper in our history and our culture, I salute the brave men and women who decided against all odds to take a risk in finding opportunity here, whether it was in the automotive industry or otherwise. And when we think about who we are now as a city and as a culture, there's none like it anywhere on earth, which is why I'm very, very proud to say where I'm from, wherever I go.
Yeah.
And I'm very, very proud to always shout out the city of Detroit.
All right. Now, with that, you also just already touched on it. And as I always say, Conant Gardens have a special place and heart for all people in Detroit, but especially Black people, but none more than shout out to Sydney James. She, Sydney is like the biggest Conant Garden representative ever. You know what I'm saying? I was looking at something on Spencer Haywood and ABA the other day, and it's like, it's always coming present. But Conant Gardens, one of those first foundational communities outside of Black Bottom where Black folks are abundantly welcome to own homes. And even to this day, a lot of those families still have relationships and the legacies are strong. What was it like connecting to that community for your family?
Yeah, for me, I just have just the greatest memories of being over my grandparents' house, my grandfather, my grandmother's house, my granddad. Again, he came and worked for Ford, and that's how he made the living and owned our own home. And so I think just the visibility of seeing my grandparents and others around them own their homes, have pride in their neighborhood. Whenever we would visit, they would always take us down the block and introduce us to all the neighbors because they were very proud of of me and my younger brother, their two grandchildren. And it was just in many ways a reflection of Black excellence and Black economic empowerment. And so I really relish and value those memories of that days. And Conant Gardens in many ways has does not look how it used to in that time. But that is not to say that at one point in time it was an extremely thriving, well-known, well-established neighborhood.
Yeah, definitely one of the most, I think for many reasons, and not just necessarily a Detroit thing, but even an American thing, things that have happened. But still, that is one of the, I think even if you move over there to this day, it's going to be people that will be, that you're going to be a part of the neighborhood association somehow. You know what I'm saying? They connecting with you.
Yeah.
So in this same arc, what neighborhood do you associate your childhood with, saying like
Morningside?
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So my parents, when they got married, they bought their first home in 48224 on Bedford Street. And I can remember them telling me that it really was me being born. You know how it is when you have children for the first time, you want to
get a crib.
You want to get a nice house. And I think that we were maybe the third or fourth African-American family on our block.
Wow.
I can remember Mr. and Mrs. Jones. They were the ones who were there first. And I can also remember on our right-hand side, there was a Jewish family, the Schusters. On our left-hand side, there was a Caucasian family. And then right across the street, during that time, a lot of the city professionals lived in that area. So the firemen, the policemen. And I remember Fireman Stanton lived right across the street. And every now and again, he would bring his fire truck by, for the kids to see. And he would open up the fire hydrants during the summertime. But yeah, it was a fun time. And but I'd be remiss to say that I also grew up during a time period where the neighborhood changed.
Yeah.
So I can remember just feeling like something was happening as a young person, 10, 11, 12. By that point in time, that was mid-'80s,
Mhm.
right? So you had a lot of deindustrialization,
Yeah.
a lot of mass exodus, or what some will call, urban flight
Yeah.
happening or white flight happening in the neighborhoods. And then, the confluence of that, a lot of job layoffs and then crack.
Yeah.
I think when I think about where if there was an inflection point in our city outside of the '67 uprising, I think that that time period of, mid to late '80s to early '90s was really a pivotal point
Yeah.
because it felt like the bottom was dropping out in many ways.
Yeah. And we've definitely touched on this often, and I think I've always actually, one of the best, I know Netflix has a documentary, but one of the best, I think, like, documentary pieces about the challenges that many Black communities across the nation have dealt with, which has definitely been more propagated about the role that a lot of other institutions, including the government, played in this existing in our community. It's a documentary on the death of basketball player Len Bias.
Mhm. Yeah.
Because soon after, a lot of the sentencing laws and just leading up to this, um, it becomes advantageous in the trafficking and the distribution of crack cocaine to involve younger people because of the sentencing laws. So now, yeah, you're saying like 12, 13, like being 11, 12, 13, you're given, the idea of having a paper route and possibly making like $50,
Right.
or hey, I just need you to carry this backpack, walk down the street, and then you can get $2,000. It's
Yeah, I mean,
abundant in communities.
it was, like most, and I don't romanticize it,
Hmm.
because I do think that there's something that we can learn from it as a community and as a city,
Hmm.
but I can remember, living, with my mother who, uh, by all accounts was our angel,
Yeah.
right? She took very did what she had to do to make sure that we were on the straight and narrow, including, knock our heads upside
Yeah.
sometimes to make sure that we're focused
Mhm.
on the right things, my brother and I. But I can also remember right next door to us, 2 brothers, same age as me and my brother, having a
Yeah.
very, very different reality because
Yeah.
their home was, impacted greatly
Yeah.
by crack cocaine,
Yeah.
including, just some bad things, and I can remember them, coming over sometimes, and my mother would look out for him, and it was really tough, and then soon after that, after graduation, I went to college,
Yeah.
right? And
Mhm.
so, um, even with that, I never ever said, Kari, and I will not say that I escaped from.
Yeah.
I didn't escape from anything. That I don't think that my block, my neighborhood, or Detroit was anything to escape from because even though there were some challenging things, there were some beautiful things that were happening as well, right?
Yeah.
There was always somebody who, would look out for you. There was always somebody who would ask you how you're doing. There was a level of accountability that took place. There were still some thriving business
Yeah.
owners, the barbershops and the beauty salons and where I got my first job at and worked at, all those things. And so I always describe my early time in Detroit as not being something that I escaped from, but something that I was nurtured through. Good, bad, and
Mhm.
indifferent.
Yeah, and other things that I've brought up, like I say, this has been a discussion on Detroit is Different before, but I always like to uplift certain things that can contextualize things in the right way. What would I say? The series Snowfall definitely early on, I think,
Mm,
places the right framework,
mhm.
but in the 70s, cocaine itself is seen as like a something of opulence and glamour, and it's like this is what the stars do, right? So clearly now you're given like a gateway of like a cheaper access to it. You know what I'm saying? So I know we have the reality of knowing the impact that it has today
Yeah,
in retrospect, but before it was like, hey, you know what I'm saying? Like I want to be like the movie stars,
sure.
and this is a gateway. So as that becomes more prevalent in how it's delivered, for a lot of us, like we're already deep addictions are very prevalent in our community. So I also think that the humanity and the dignity of a lot of people that struggled with addiction then, and even those that struggle with addiction now are still stalwarts within and throughout our community that exists. But often, we just got to frame it the right way. Often, I like to, add that to it so people don't think that, as you say, like you're not escaping from it. A lot of it is very like these are people you know.
Yeah, yeah. The people we know, family members,
Yeah,
cousins,
yeah,
brothers,
yeah,
sisters.
yeah.
But I think there's for us and the work that I currently do now. I mean, listen, I if you would have told me when I graduated from high school and went off to college, and my whole the arc then in terms of where I saw my life going, I'm gonna go
Mhm.
into corporate America.
Yeah.
I'm gonna make it big. I'm gonna be a CFO or a CEO somewhere. All that good stuff.
Mhm.
If you would have told me then that I would be in Detroit
Yep.
working on helping to revitalize the same neighborhood that I grew up in,
Mm.
I would have I may have asked, "Oh, you must be smoking crack."
Yeah. Hey.
I never would have
Yeah.
guessed it, never would have thought it, but I feel blessed to be in the position that I'm in because I think that, even though there were some ugly times, man, there's always a beautiful side of ugly.
I think opportunities. I mean, it's one of the things that's very prevalent in Eastern culture, and I believe in it. And I think anybody in business definitely believes like in crises you get opportunities
Sure.
because when crisis strikes, now you can try things that you never would try. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know what I mean? If you don't want your car to break down, but now you can be like, hey, can I really ride my bicycle to work
Yeah,
or where I need to go? You know what I'm saying? Like, you don't want that to happen, but you do it for a while and it's like, okay, I can do this. I
yeah,
can take the bus here or there. And now when you make the purchasing decision for another vehicle, you have a different perspective of how you look at it. You
yeah,
know what I'm saying?
yeah,
So that's an example, but clearly so many things in abundance. And even how you speak of what success was, even from a corporate lens, when we look at certain things. I'm a big, as you know, nerd about a lot of things, but definitely things in sociology, history, and I collect a lot of the old magazines and even like those old Black Enterprises and anybody that's ever read a George Sabira book or anything like it's a model of what Black success looks like in the '80s as being very much uplifted, similar to what you say. It's like we want a corner office.
yeah,
I want to manage this. I want to manage
yeah,
that. And I'm not saying necessarily that that's not a role of success, but similar to many things is, things happen. Many people have gone to that. And now, just like that shift towards entrepreneurship that I think you kind of were in the helm of, it was definitely being a lot motivated in the '90s and definitely early 2000s from a lot of those Black folks that were in those CEO spots saying like, look, I like this, but I think you should go that way.
yeah, yeah. No, I think what you're describing is guidance and mentorship, right?
Yeah.
And I've been blessed to be, even early on. I'm sure we've all heard of Al Keebalan
Oh,
and
yeah.
Master Cuff. I was one of his students, right?
Wow.
And so
Okay.
just having those mentors, those figures around to be able to
Mhm.
help point me in the right direction, both then and certainly once I got into the corporate sphere. But I think the
Mhm.
biggest transition for me uh, was just this. Carl, you're from here. You know
Mhm.
this. It's hard to describe the love and the infatuation that we have for our city to
Yeah.
people who are not from here,
Yep.
right? It's like Detroit. Why?
Yeah.
And my question is, why not? Right?
I mean, the title exists for many reasons that Detroit is different, but I always uplift, even to this day. And there are many other, the way Black folks move into Houston, Black folks been in
Yeah,
Atlanta, Black folks in DC. It's chocolate cities, many places, even across the world, like Lagos and everything. I was like, but Detroit is one of the few places where you can say categorically, man, I don't like that black heart surgeon. I'm gonna choose this one or that one. It ain't that many places on earth
yeah.
where you can say that.
Yeah, there's a density of certainly of Black people here, but
Yeah.
also a melting pot of others too, and I think
Oh,
that's
very much so. Yeah.
the one of the beauties of Detroit. But my wife and I, we made the decision to move back in Detroit of all
Mm.
years. It was 2008,
Wow. Okay.
and that decision was a faith decision,
Mm.
right? We felt called and compelled to come back to the city that we're from and the city that we love. I mean, we still have family here, but we also just had this sense of renewed optimism and hope about what the city could become. And so we felt that if we were to pick one thing that we would regret doing in our life, it would be not coming back home.
Wow.
To be a part of whatever the future of it was going to be. Now, wow. it was a huge risk. Our children at the time were 5 and 2. And, as parents, one of the things that you're always putting in the forefront of mind is your children's future.
Yeah.
But even with that, we felt like, yes, living down south, we were in Houston specifically, was great. And we have a lot of good friends there, even to this day. But if given the opportunity, if our children could have a chance to experience what true renaissance and true uplift look like in a community that looks like them, would be not only valuable for them, but ultimately, we see them as not only our children, but all of our children as being our future. So we want for them to go and do great things and become great things. And I think that Detroit fundamentally is a great place for that foundation to start.
Very much so. All right. So you said like business, corporate management was the thought process. You go to college. Where do you go to college? And what was the thought process of the path you would go?
So Wilberforce University.
All right.
Very, very proud alum of Wilberforce.
Yep.
So funny story. So I've always had this idea, oh man, I'm going to be a CEO. I'm going to own my own business or be, run some Fortune 500 company. And, Wilberforce is the first private HBCU, right? And so most guys in their dorms, they have pictures at that time of, Jordan or whoever their favorite rap artist was or entertainer or some lovely young lady from Jet Magazine, right? That's what all the normal guys. Man, I had pictures and posters of Bill Gates.
Wow.
On my wall, and I would get ragged on. Like,
I can imagine.
You have this middle-aged white man on your wall.
It's like I got Janet Jackson right here.
The Janet Jackson, right?
Pleasure Principal Janet Jackson.
But I just, I've always believed in whatever I want to do in life. Number one, I want to do it. I think I'm put on earth to solve big problems. And to do something that's never been done before. Yeah. And so at the time, he was the archetype for that in terms of him founding Microsoft. And then, of course, he's done great things since then. But yeah, that was the trajectory that I was on. And again, I told you I spent some time in Houston and came back. One of the things I learned, though, when I was in corporate America, if I didn't learn anything else, and that is that intention, commitment to your design, and having the right people on your team are the primary ingredients for success.
I have many, if you guys watch Detroit is Different, though, many sports analogies, especially in basketball, but and it's because of things like what you just said, and really those key ingredients almost in anything you're doing, sadly, even if you're doing things wrong, will be a path and gateway to opportunity and towards success.
Yeah. I mean, your future doesn't define your future. Your habits define your future.
Right? That I dig that. So when you're, what are you majoring in at the time? What was the thought process when you get to campus? And also, so people know, Wilberforce, not just independent. So it's, and I mean, we're in Michigan and Ohio is right there, but Ohio got different pockets, but definitely Wilberforce. I'm thinking it's like if anybody's ever been there, many HBCUs, I think, kind of have like an arc of this type of person, but that's a place that it just welcomes many different types of people. I think Wilberforce and Fisk are interesting in that.
Yeah.
From how I've engaged with both.
Yeah, no, I think that comparison is a real comparison. I mean, listen, I had the time of my life. Now, did everything that I do was it for in my best interest? No, at the time I thought it was though. But have fun, made friends. My major was finance.
Okay.
So really heavily invested in that, and I think the thing that I really valued the most about that experience, aside from just the fun and whatnot, was you gotta remember, I'm from Detroit, right?
Yeah.
So my community was African American.
Yeah.
So then I go to Wilberforce, and it was
Mhm.
still the same African American community, but it felt like a level up.
Yeah.
You had all of these incredible, thoughtful, bright, ambitious young Black men and young Black women
Mhm.
who saw not only that they had a bright future, but saw a responsibility of theirs to whatever they did, whether it was
Mm.
finance, whether it was accounting, whether it was dance, whether it was education,
Mm.
that they were a part of the African American narrative, and that it was their responsibility to whatever their professional career they were going to choose for them to be able to give back to their community. So that was kind of like inscripted in the narrative of
Wow.
our education.
Hmm.
And my entryway into corporate America, shout out to Mr. Nate Jenkins, was somebody 20 years my predecessor reaching out to the school and saying to himself, "Look, I have been adamant about my company recruiting at Wilberforce, and they're coming down there.
Wow.
And I want you to identify 4 or 5 or 6 young men and young women who you believe deserve a shot."
All right, so I definitely it's so many questions I can start, but I really want as best as you can go with that premise, because I'm sure when you're given that information.
Sure.
How did you prepare yourself for that? What were you thinking, like clothing, presentation, resume? What was it, what you can recall how at that point, Diallo Smith walked into that
The only
opportunity?
thing I was thinking at the time was, brother, you better, in my mind,
Yeah.
and from him,
Yeah.
brother, you better not mess this up, right?
Okay.
But you know what? It wasn't in a pejorative way, and I think, in my opinion, that is part of one of the missing ingredients of our culture now. The transparency for the older generation to speak very candidly with the younger generation to say, "Hey, listen, there's a lot that's at stake here. There's a lot that's at stake."
Yeah.
Not in a insulting way, but I want you to shine, and I want you to do your absolute best. And my response to that was, "Yes, sir." The interview was a phone interview. I remember that. This is before Zoom. This is
definitely
before all that stuff. So it was a phone interview, and I met with the interview was with the director of the whole North American territory of this particular company, Exxon.
All right, and wait, time out. I also have to, and that Exxon is huge, but I also want to, before Zoom, but also the internet isn't as prevalent as, you don't have the like, oh, I'm about to meet with this corporation. Let me just chat GPT everything I need to know. And even Google, you know what I'm saying? This is pre-Google and a lot of stuff. So even information that you may want to like, I can zip this in. Possibly if you, happen to have a magazine around, but like some of that prep, you don't have the tools of today. I just want to share that with you.
Didn't have the tools for today, but in as much as we could, we were prepped. I think that we all felt, everybody who was in that small cohort of interviewees, we all felt confident.
Yeah.
We felt like we were well prepared.
Yeah.
We felt like it wasn't by mistake that we had earned the opportunity to be able to interview with this prestigious company and this prestigious organization. And I happened to be lucky enough, blessed enough to be selected to first do my internship and then start my career at that time was the largest corporation in the world.
Okay.
Or in the United States.
So I'm guessing that's what takes you down to Houston.
Yes, sir.
That's definitely I'm just, oil country,
Everything's big in Texas.
How did you, what year do you get there? And let's just talk, I love culture.
Sure.
Culturally, what's happening? If you've never been to Houston, it's Detroit is different. It definitely got its own. Texas itself got its own thing. But what was it like when you get there? What year is it?
Oh gosh, man, you asked me to tell my age, brother.
Oh man,
this was 19.
But you could just say like even mid 90s or late 90s or early 2000s.
I'll say late 90s.
Okay, all right. So this is after like the Rockets win some championships and after Warm Moon,
But it's funny that you mentioned the internet. It was right when the internet was just coming taking off. And so
all right,
you talk about that preparedness. self-awareness and that confidence.
Yeah.
Brother, I went into there, I mean, love my school, but our computer lab might have been maybe double the size of this room, right? And the internet had just started and people were sending emails. Man, I had never sent an email in my life. As an accountant, as a financial analyst, you're using Excel spreadsheets. I had never used it in my life, but guess what? A brother had to figure it out.
Okay.
And so I remember being there the first 2 weeks, 3 weeks of me working, not telling a soul what I didn't know.
Yeah.
But spending 4 or 5 hours after work just learning it and figuring it out. But that's because I felt as if it wasn't about what I didn't know. I felt equipped that I could figure it out. And I did. But yeah, Houston was a beautiful place, man. Big city.
Very much so.
Big city. Culture was obviously different. I remember probably the Detroiters might be able to appreciate this. Particularly in the late '80s and early '90s, if you were any club anywhere, we have Detroit techno, so everything is fast and speeded up.
Yep.
Sped up. Well, down south, the first thing I recognized was everything was slower because DJ Screw was big at that time. But I had a chance to go down and to experience some other cities in the South, and states in the South, Louisiana and some other places. But what I appreciated, wherever I went, one was a sense of love and a sense of hospitality.
Okay.
But also it gave me a chance to experience the diaspora in other places.
Okay.
Right? I had been in the Midwest up to that point my whole life. But it made me it made me have even a deeper appreciation for Detroit culture, but also made me have a deeper appreciation for other Black cultures in different cities.
Okay. All right. And also a lot of other things when I think of just that trajectory, like late 90s on, Houston's population is just growing and growing and growing. And I mean, it's to this day, it's continuing to grow. What was it like? Because I think that's also a reverse too.
Sure.
You're living in Detroit during times where, population is declining.
Yeah.
What was it like witnessing more people come? And I mean, you're a part of some of the people coming, but what does that feel like culturally? How did you navigate seeing, so many things?
Very, very energetic, right? Very energetic, very eye-opening in a lot of different ways. My now wife, at the time we were dating, her being from Detroit too, I think we both were thinking to ourselves, wow, could this blueprint be what Detroit can experience?
Wow. Okay.
I think that was the only thing that we were thinking. I mean, certainly we enjoyed our time there, but we were all Detroit was always in the back of our mind.
Did you know her before you went to Houston?
Yeah, okay. High school sweetheart.
Okay. All right. Okay.
Shout out to DCAS Technical High School.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. So, but we were thinking about, wow, what could this look like if Detroit could have this same sense of energy and growth and just a dynamic culture where people felt like opportunity was a stone's throw away.
Yep.
And I think that to me is really the growth mechanism of any city. That's why Detroit grew, because people felt like there was an opportunity there. And I think that what we're finding out now in the work that I do and the work that others do is when you can create these, when you can glean from other cities, transport that and contextualize it for your own, but ultimately create just widespread access for opportunities so people can thrive, people will. Because our philosophy, Life Remodeled's philosophy, is that Detroit has all the talent that we need.
Okay.
It's that we don't have more access for opportunities to thrive.
I like where you're going, and I got two questions, and I'm finally going to jump in what we talked about pregame now. But the first thing, another thing that's very prevalent in all places in Texas, but especially Houston, is zoning. It's very much like when people say, what's the difference between a place that's more liberal or a place that's more conservative? Texas, it'll be like sometimes like the rows of the types of businesses, it can be all over the place.
Yeah.
But it's just kind of like the openness to it, because the leaning more conservative. We want free enterprise. We want people to do what you want to do. And there are some advantages to that, and there are some disadvantages to that. What did you take from like how people kind of functioned, and like you included, especially being somebody in business and finance, like
Sure.
observing that?
Yeah, I mean, definitely Texas is they're created to be able to facilitate business, right? The state of Texas and the city of Houston is no exception. Here's one of the things that I gleaned from being down there, from the time that I was. Back in the early to mid '80s, they had a financial crisis themselves because they over-indexed on the oil industry, right? And so when the oil industry tanked, oil and gas industry tanked, it really impacted the large majority of the city. But they learned from that and they diversified their economic portfolio. So, I mean, when you think about Texas, you're going to think about oil and gas just because it is what it is.
Yes.
But when you think about Houston specifically, they have a large tech sector. Certainly they have a large energy sector, but they found ways to not be so over-reliant on one particular industry set. And so when I think about how they constructed their city, the way I thought about it was less about where I could go or where I couldn't go, even though the zoning is different. But the way that they architected the business blueprint for their city so that they had a lot more diversified economic opportunities outside of just one industry set. And I think that bode well from the other thing that I was saying. I hope I don't get in trouble for saying this because I do support our state officials, but no state tax.
Yeah.
That was also very attractive. But all that is
up.
to stimulate business activity.
Yes. Yeah, and another, like, I think, which I think this kind of goes with more opportunities. The weirdest thing, and I think Houston's probably worse than Dallas, is like, certain portions of those freeways damn near look like roller coasters. The way that, So you'd be like,
One other thing I want to say about Houston, Car, and particularly with respect to our Black brothers and sisters who stay down there. What I appreciated was the way the Black entrepreneur community really banded together and supported one another. And Houston, I think this is true still, is one of the few major cities in the United States where the minority population is larger than the white population. So if you were to take all of the minorities that live in, so Asian, Latino, certainly African American, you add all those up, it's more than and what you find is that, a lot of those minority populations really support
one another.
And their businesses. And I saw that, within the African American community within Houston too, that there was just a groundswell of support of being able to support African American businesses. You go eat at African American restaurants because you felt like you were investing in that ecosystem.
Yeah, and as you already mentioned it and a little, but now I'm gonna tap into it. Before you spoke of In the Mix and hip hop, and and then you even touched on Mike Watts, and Mike Watts is I think like a historic producer and like really one of the key engineers of like the screwed up sound, as you say, really slow, but also just like the wave of mixtapes, which where things are. In the Mix was I knew it as a place inside Fairlane, as a booth, and when I was rapping, it was like one of the first mixtapes that like two of my verses were accepted on, and it'd be weird because like you get these CDs, and I know it's like, what's a CD? CD is a device that had music at one point in time.
A musical device.
Yes, and it'd be like maybe like 70 tracks and like all these different verses and stuff, and then people do liner drops. It was something, but clearly even what you said, what I said was this. Even in that point, just knowing business at the point, a lot of times just in the creative mind of where things stand, we're not necessarily paying attention to the distribution points. And the distribution points of business are extremely important. especially if you're into some form of creativity. Like right now, we're watching, I mean, people that really are into business, but we're watching almost, as they say, actually, one of my professors years ago, like just sent me an article that he wrote on it, but we're watching like wars over streaming right now. As people are looking at like, okay, what's happening with Disney? What's happening with Hulu? What's happening with Peacock? And all of the waves, and Netflix saying, okay, we're going to get in the podcast market. We're watching the distribution points of how do we capture attention to get things to people. So sometimes I think we can focus on what we're creating, which is very important, but the distribution point becomes so much more important. If you got the best, I don't know, pizza, song, furniture ever, but you don't have a way to get it to people.
Sure. Yeah, no, I think you're right. I mean, that's part of the business cycle is that distribution point. So, uh, gosh, I have not told this in a long time. But yes, there was a store here at Fairlane Mall called In the Mix. They were it was engineered and owned by four of my best friends, my brother, my blood brother included. But the idea stemmed from something that my good friend and I were doing back in Houston, and we were all excited. This was like, man, again, late '90s. Hip hop was really growing.
Yeah.
Mixtapes were a thing.
Yeah.
You had Kid Capri and DJ Clue and all these guys, and we were like, man, you know what? Nobody's really selling them over the internet. And so we just got together and put together a website and figured out those the networks to be able to get in contact with the content creators or the CD creators. And so we would distribute them, via mail before the internet, right?
I remember, because now it comes to me. Lou was the guy that I really knew with In the Mix here, and it like kind of connected to the Lush Lounge. But also the hook with In the Mix was you get a T-shirt and a mixtape. So like the hook was like, okay, I really like the shirt, but I also like the mixtape, because it's been some DJs doing things like, I think, Dilla Day is coming soon. And DJ Butter, which stays out in Phoenix, shout out Butter, but he's coming back for it. And love you, Butter, but you never gave me any clothing with with your purchase. So it was like, I want the shirt too.
Yeah. But if you think about during that time, and things have changed a lot since then, but I do appreciate you talking about just being aware of the whole business cycle. I think sometimes you don't know what you don't know. And I think that's one of our responsibilities, is to be able to teach old and young alike just how economics work. One of the things I think what I appreciate about Black culture specifically is we've owned cool.
Yeah, very much so.
Right? And we've also owned culture. I think where we need to grow is in owning our knowledge of commerce and capitalism.
Yes.
Because when we can fuse those two together, now we know, now it's not only about creating content or creating culture or creating a sellable asset. It's about knowing how the whole economic cycle works and being able to ensure that it's beneficial for the communities that we live in.
Yeah, I mean, during this time, and I mean, people definitely have spoke of this for years, but because I was playing Wu-Tang Clan, because I said, no, the seat is yours. But Tommy Hilfiger comes out in an article and said, look, I didn't make my clothes for Black people or hip hop. And it was, as he's saying that, a lot of people definitely was like, what you talking about? We basically are the main people buying it, hence like making it cool and everything. And definitely since then, a lot of people was like, hey, I'm never wearing Tommy Hilfiger again. But at the same time, it was more the distribution points. I mean, it's a brand that if anybody studies the story of the way he kind of designed cool to like, as we're cool wearing it in culture and to the people, he's designing a cool that becomes cool to like these groups in the Hamptons that are more affluent. And it's like, okay, I'm going to make sure that I'm in front of these fashion buyers so I can get in these stores, and then they can get to those channels. And it becomes so important, especially with art, because so many artists, all the time are like, where's my money? Where's my money? But just never having the control of those distribution points. How do you get things sold? When we look at the influence and the success of a Tyler Perry, whether you like his art or don't like his art, You have to respect that the man has access to, from the plays. I'm going to tape the plays. And when we're going to be we'll start in the lobby or wherever we just did the play, and we're going to sell you the play we did last time. And then eventually this is going to build the type of audience where we can get to other people. And I guess also through hip hop, I think Master P becomes very important and influential in that same world, but the distribution channels, because so many times people like, hey, you can handle that and I'll handle this, but that point, very important.
No, you're speaking of something that I think has some psychological underground. One, I want to shout out. I believe 50 Cent. He just opened up or is opening up a huge
studio in Shreveport. Yes,
for that very reason. But I think you talked about Hilfiger and how we have commodified cool. Some of that I think is us not fully understanding our worth and fully understanding our potential. Here's why I say this. I was reading a statistic just recently that said that's two statistics. One, 68% of luxury goods are purchased by people who have a middle-class income and below.
Yeah.
Right? Because it's an aspirational purchase.
Yes.
I'm wanting to attract myself or be connected to something that's associated with wealth or being rich, right? Also, if you look at the study of logos, right? Because logos now are on everything, right? For the most part. But when hip hop began to really grow and thrive in the mid '80s and beyond, the amount of luxury brands or brands period that had logos on them accelerated exponentially. In other words, because you go back to Run DMC and My Adidas, right?
Very much so.
Right. So that those logos, those three stripes became associated with cool. And we helped all of those brands grow exponentially. What I would love to see us grow more in as we're thinking about, okay, what's the direction for us? Definitely ownership. Right. We need to not only own content, but we also need to own distribution channels.
Yes.
Of which we own very few distribution channels.
Very much so.
Very few.
Very much so.
And the ones that we do own, because it's just like a narrow bandwidth, they tend to control what's being seen and what's being heard.
Yeah.
But I also think that we need to realize how important we are to the whole of the economy. If you think about it, Kari, this is a little economic lesson from somebody who thinks he knows what he's talking about, but every now and again, sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. But on this, I know it's true. 70% of our gross domestic product is consumer spending. Right. So if you think about what drives this country economically, it's people buying stuff.
Yeah.
Buying these lights, paying my car note, paying my house bill, buying this suit, all these things, right? The country is shifting from a demographic standpoint where in 2045, it will be a majority-minority country.
Very much so.
If we see ourselves as being the future economic drivers of a country, I think that puts us in a different disposition and different light of how we just navigate our daily realities, because now it's not something that we are just a part of. It's something that we are significantly contributing to. And without our participation in it, then the system fails.
Very much so. My degree is from Walsh undergrad and grad. So like I've had, and my dad's a CPA, and I like the theories of a lot of these things that when we think finance. So a couple of different points that I always like to speak of. So first off, gross domestic product. Like people are like, what's this? So it's like an index technically of usually it can be anywhere from like 20 to 50 goods. Shout out to my professor, Mr. Padilla, always saying, it's full of jargon. So like those goods are like tracked. And then it's like through tracking of these goods, you can see like the status of, technically they say like the health of a nation, right? A term I always like to uplift. And at one point in time, it was more uplifted, and shout out to Theo Broden and Hood Research, but the propensity to spend, meaning that when you get $1, what's your probability of spending? And you guys have probably always heard it. it's usually said like, when a dollar comes into the Black community, it's gone within 3 seconds, meaning that our propensity to spend, which I think some of it is definitely through the lens of consumption, some of it is out of necessity, but it also kind of goes a little bit into like, okay, when I finally get some money, I gotta buy something because I've been so broke for so long, I'm gonna look fly, like this act. And sometimes it's like, hey, I'm behind on rent and I need rent. So it plays in both worlds. How do you arc? Whereas what you're saying is like, instead of looking at the market as it's like, how do we walk into the role of seeing our role in the market as we're setting the terms in which how we engage with it, as opposed to I'm just trying to get access to it. And this is a belief that I think with most Americans, because before Walsh, I'm at Henry Ford Community College, and also Lewis College of Business. Shout out HBCUs. The thing about America, this is just one of my theories, the comedian said it best, is best, but a lot of Americans do believe that even like sometimes the most far away and most stressed, where they're at in dollars, they identify with that class of opulence and with that class of wealth. So it's like, no, I don't want you to tax a billionaire. And you never met a billionaire. You don't know a billionaire. Ain't nobody in your family billionaires. Nobody in your neighborhood ever been a billionaire. But the thought process is that one day I'm going to be a billionaire. And when I get there, I don't want to be taxed. So it's almost like a lotto ticket concept of like, I'm going to rise above all these other people. And when I get there, I want to be taken care of. And it's a weird, and a lot of this definitely, I think, goes into some of the propaganda that's perpetuated that creates these situations where you don't end up with, here's another economic concept, as you say, a arm's length transaction, meaning that good businesses, like I come across that far, Diallo comes across that far, we meet in the middle and we shake hands, as opposed to like, the studies. It's like, we'll go back to like those luxury items. If I want these opulent items, so I'll drive all the way to Somerset to get it. So it's not arm's length. I'm driving far out my community to a place that never will open a store within my community. They're designing it really not for me to buy it, but I'll go that far across the table to have that handshake.
Yep. Yeah, and I'm glad that you mentioned that about the importance of neighborhoods.
Mm-hmm.
I had a chance to speak at the Detroit Policy Conference a month ago. And one of the things that I talked about was that the future of the Detroit region, economically and otherwise, I believe, is fundamentally connected to the future of Detroit neighborhoods. The reason I said that is because when you think about just where the state of Michigan is on certain economic metrics and even the Detroit region is in certain economic metrics, the manner in which we are able to increase access to opportunities, which will then increase economic mobility, and educational mobility and environmental mobility in our neighborhoods, will have an increased ripple effect of return for the whole region.
Very much so.
So right now, depending on which study you look at, the average household income within the city of Detroit proper right now is somewhere between $37,000 and $39,000.
Mm-hmm.
If you can compare that to our Michigan neighbors broadly outside the city of Detroit, is $75,000. So that means that we're close to 50% underneath just the medium household average.
Yeah.
If you can look at a lot of statistical indicators to see that there's a undersizing there. If I had to make a bet on what would be the best investment for the state to make, it would be in revitalizing our Detroit neighborhoods, and here's why. You will see more relative gain in Detroit than you would in any other place. One, because I think that we have the right population to do so because we're younger in age than some of our aging communities outside the city of Detroit. Number two, man, you can say a lot of things about Detroit, but you cannot say that we don't have will and ambition.
And creativity. Another thing that, and I mean, at Life Remodeled, you're at the forefront of seeing a lot of these changes. Sure. And you even shouted out Al Keebalan Village. And I mean, if anybody's never been over that way, you need to get on Harper and Van Dyke right over there. You know what I'm saying? To just
Master
see
Cofield.
how Master Cofield and many others, shout out GMAC and a lot of the other organizers there, Sister Sarah. I mean, the wealth of around the concept
Sure.
of what starts as people thinking martial arts has grown into a community asset and resource that has abundantly provided opportunity for thousands of families.
Including me. And so the investment that when we decide, one, as Detroiters, that we are the future of our region, of our state, and of our country,
Yeah.
and wear it as a badge of honor. I mean, I know that there's a lot of conversations around the how people view diversity and its value. There's a direct correlation between us being the most diverse country in the world and us being the largest economic superpower in the world. In other words, diversity equals good business.
Well,
Right?
I'll give another statistic that I don't think a lot of people recognize or acknowledge. Some of this is, some of the Aisha Shule in me, but as America definitely will transition to, the white population not being abundant, in that same trajectory, most statistics have by like 2060 that like 2/3 of the world population will be in Africa.
Sure.
And that's with everything that you think horrible that's happened and attacked in Africa. But that's also why we're looking at so many other nations and businesses and corporations looking to get involved in Africa. Because similar to, I was born in 82, but when I was younger in 82, people were like, China's far behind. Now, study history and you'll find why. But as China began to grow in industry, you also create a consumer base as well. The African consumer base, especially when we look at, a lot of people were really going behind Burkina Faso and what President Touré is doing, but many other nations that are like severing more of those colonial ties that still exist to this day for some strange reason, but they're entering markets. And when you think about, like you say, that international trade, and you want to interact with these brothers and sisters, if 2/3 of the world is in Africa and you got like one of the blackest cities in America and you want to do business with billions of people, in my mind, hey, when in Rome, you better speak Rome. I know if I'm going to the women's conference and I'm trying to get better access and sell something, I am bringing my team of women. You know what I'm saying? Because they're going to understand the nuances. They're going to understand some of the cultural things that I never will understand, the layers of things, the dynamics, and then just furthermore, just the representation that I'm honoring you enough.
Yeah,
to have you in the space.
And to that point, and this is, I think, what's true. I would say this whether I was at the Detroit Policy Conference or if I was
on the street
on Mac and Bewick.
Yep.
We all win when we all win.
Yeah.
So I know there's been some distancing between city and suburbs and black and white or what have you. I think if we can get past that reality, we can see the potential in all of us.
Yeah.
That when we all do well, we will all do well, right? And so for us, that's why the work that we do in core neighborhoods is so important. Not only because it's the right thing to do, which it is. Being able to see a child who has all the potential in the world, but just maybe needs some support with after-school programming or needs exposure opportunities with mentors of different businesses, I think that is the right thing to do. But if, in addition to it being the right thing to do, it's the right thing to do for the region and for our city and for our country. Because when we invest in people who have historically been disinvested in, you will see the relative impact. You mentioned China. One of the reasons why China is able to grow as fastly as they can, they have a very hyper-local approach. So, China is a huge country.
Yeah.
And so they identified which cities that they wanted to have large-scale investment in education and large-scale investment in creating economic opportunities. And so their evolution of raising a large population of middle class was not by some happenstance random account. No, they are very strategic in saying we want to invest significantly in our in our people from an education and an economic perspective. I think that same modality and that same mentality should be what we consider in the state of Michigan, specifically in Detroit, because as Detroit grows economically, as Detroit grows educationally, and as Detroit grows environmentally, it's going to have upstream ripple effects for all of us, right?
Mhm.
And so when I think about what the future of this region could be, man, Carl, I am maybe I'm just drinking the Kool-Aid, but I am so optimistic.
I
I am so
think,
optimistic.
I think that, I think the creativity sometimes that you get from a person, just any person. I
Sure,
mean, it could be, you know, the person that's been like I guess like a manager, and then they move into a position of director. I mean, and at times, you know, you roll the dice and it doesn't land like you want it, but
sure.
you're gonna get a new creative lens
Mm,
from a person that's from a new person in that position. So they're gonna offer things that you just have not seen, that you never connected with. I'm not. I'm just sounding like people thinking I'm
nah,
big into
yeah,
fashion right here, but that the things that the brother Lucian offered into like those opulent brands have now become standards. Now back to like another hip hop thing, the '80s. Back to like I never knew any of these designer brands, but I was looking at KRS-One wearing Dapper Dan leathers, and I'm like, "That's cool." You know what I'm saying? I didn't
sure.
even necessarily know what was happening. And now, like, decades later, the relationship is creating an abundance of, people that wanted it then, people that want it now, and you're, like, bringing in, like, in that creativity because, a Louis Vuitton designer is not interacting with, the streets of Brooklyn and Mike Tyson and Eric B. and Rakim. So they're not even in that pulse to, as you say, working together creates new markets.
Yeah. We have a group of students that we work with. Shout out to Denby High School.
Okay.
We have a group of students that we
DB.
work with. Yeah, we have a group of students that we work with where we're immersing them in technology,
Mm,
so that they can choose college and career pathways in that field. But one of the ways
mhm,
we do that is through this initiative called esports. Have you
mm.
heard of esports before?
Man, esports is taking off because yeah, I mean this for everybody in my I mean, I had a Nintendo, but back then it was like you ain't gonna never get nothing playing video games. Now it's people playing video games. It's like, yo, ma, get a new house. Seriously.
Exactly. No,
It's like,
yeah,
you
seriously.
could get a scholarship. You could be a professional video game
Yeah,
player.
exactly.
Blows my
So
mind.
it blows my mind too, but there's added value in that. So
Yeah.
just thinking about how how we can help our students leapfrog
Yeah.
into a new generational economic reality. Anyway, so talk about the creativity. So first, we started this program in September.
Mhm.
12 students, incredible young men and young women, very very bright,
Mhm.
had never played esports before.
Wow, okay.
They went on to go to be the first DPSCD school
Hmm.
to play in the Michigan Esports State Championship.
Wow.
Now, I believe that some of that was just because they're brilliant, right?
Mhm.
And if given the opportunity, as you mentioned before,
Yeah.
then they can excel. But I also think that they didn't come into it with any typeset, so they were
Mhm.
able to be as creative as they want to be. Part of the program is the young people being able to do what we're doing now. So they're calling the games.
Mm.
Right, and I think about the late great Stuart Scott and how when he came on to ESPN, he introduced a whole new way
Yeah.
of announcing. So these young people,
Mhm.
they're bringing at Denver, they're bringing their own flair,
Wow.
their own nuance, their own style to these games and calling these games.
Yeah.
And I can sense the other people in the room being like, "Oh man,
We
that's
never
cool.
thought
That's cool
of
the way
that.
that he said that he or
Yeah.
she announced that particular
Mhm.
part of the game." So I think that when for all of us, um, we will be in fact, I would say that many times compressed creativity, which is what we often experience in some of our
Yeah.
communities, that compressed creativity because it hasn't been allowed to grow. When it is given the chance, creativity is going to come out regardless. You can't hold it back.
Yeah.
right? And so when it's allowed to really express itself, then that's when you're seeing genius. That's when you're seeing young people thrive. That's when you're seeing, older people thrive too. And so
I,
I'm excited about that.
I mean, it completely in that same arc of me as you're saying that, like I say, I mean, I'm from a generation where like it sometimes would call fisticuff to like watch somebody else play a video game all the time. But it's a whole nother world, like
Sure.
back to, almost like the and one mixtapes and, the way that's, no offense to I was at the game yesterday, George Blaha and Greg Kelser, that's something that has value. But somebody like, oh man, he did that. It adds like a different flavor and it's grabbing my attention in a different style. Like all of these things, as you say, like if you know what I'm saying? You don't even know the rules if you're breaking them or not.
Correct. And there's a freedom in that.
Yeah.
And when I think about where Detroit is going directionally, I sense that freedom because in business terms, you call it being first in the market.
Yeah.
Right. So if you think about ChatGPT, one of the reasons they were able to blow up as quickly as they did as an AI model is because they were first in the market. Right.
Mm-hmm.
Now everybody's trying to play catch up. Hey, listen, we've been for better or for worse, we've been first in the market a lot. We're the first city in the world historically to lose over 1 million people in population. There is no other city in the history of the known world that's lost over 1 million people in population. There is no other city that has realized the same level of economic devastation in such a short window of time as Detroit has. But guess what that now creates?
Mm-hmm. Opportunity.
That now creates the opportunity to say, you know what? Yeah, we were the first in that area. Now we're going to be the first to show how we can reverse that trend. And I believe that in the next 5, 10, 15 years, certainly with the work that Life Remodeled is doing, that we will create models for the rest of the world to be able to look at and say, "Oh my gosh, how did they turn that around?" And specifically, let's be very transparent. How did it turn around with a majority African American population?
Mm-hmm.
And so, thinking about what we could be now, that's something that we have to have the will, the ambition, and to your point, the creativity to do.
Mm-hmm.
But the possibilities are there. What I would add to that is that it's a whole effort, right? It's not just a community effort.
Mm-hmm.
It's a community, philanthropic, corporate, educational, meaning our great universities. It's a whole collective effort. But when we're able to add those core components and be able to create the right frameworks for revitalization, I see no reason why when you talk about Africa being a centerpiece in the next 20, 30 years, I see absolutely no reason why our Detroit neighborhoods cannot be the model of what the future of neighborhood belonging and revitalization can be.
Oh, very much so. And I mean, it kind of, I'm going to start back as we get to a close where you kind of began. It's intention.
It's intention.
When you have that intention, and that's another one of those things when you don't know the rule. You don't know if you're up, you don't know if you're down. You're just, playing the game. You know what I'm saying? It's like, I don't even know what this is. You know what I'm saying? And then it has a different confidence in which you go about and engage. And I definitely think that there are so many opportunities, but we just have to definitely diversify where we look at success.
Yeah. Well, it's absolutely. We can do anything that we want to do if we so choose it. But I think some of that intention is based upon not just pathways, but navigated pathways. I mean, sometimes you have to have somebody give you a clear picture of what you can become or what you can do. I mean, when I think about, I share with you how life was for me growing up. Yeah, I knew who the D boys were.
Yeah.
Right. But there were also people in my same neighborhood or my same block who were doing well as corporate leaders or social leaders and the like. And so I had some visibility and some intuition as to what I could become. I think with what we do at Life Remodeled, we take that navigated pathway approach very seriously.
That's deep.
Because one thing that we don't talk about a lot, but since we're on this podcast, I think we can say it because Detroit is different. One of the other things Detroit is different about is that we've experienced over 100,000 Black Detroiters leave the city since 2012.
Yeah, many, in the same perspective. And in that, back to intention, and I know it's small, because this is where sometimes the old and the new connect. But one thing I've always known about Life Remodel, and it's actually like one of those things where I guess I'm a little old school, man. But always welcomed, always welcomed at the door. And I know something like that doesn't really necessarily seem like it should connect so much and so profoundly, but it's a lot of places and spaces where you're just not welcomed, especially like in communities like ours. So being, whether they're behind the security desk or just over like, right there at the hallway, I've never walked in Life Remodeled and was not welcomed with a hello, how are you? And I don't know who, added that to the culture, but something that small, especially in our community, can go a far, far distance.
Thank you for saying that. Shout out to our Life Remodel team. Shout out to our front desk staff. Shout out to our parking lot team. Shout out to everybody who makes that experience possible. I think collectively we said this. Experiencing above and beyond hospitality should not be something that you have to pay for. It should be a human expectation. I mean, when you think about a high hospitality, it's a 5-star hotel, well, that costs more.
Yes.
Or it's a 5-star restaurant, well, that costs more.
Yep.
But we rarely are able to experience that, unfortunately, in our communities. And we wanted to change that paradigm because you're right. When we're talking about uplifting a community or uplifting a neighborhood, it's not only about the programs. Yes, that's a key component of it. But those programs start with how you get treated when you walk in the door. It just says, "Hey, we thought about you before you came here."
And it's layers to this. So I know oftentimes, especially usually I get into some of these discussions with a lot of my white homies and everything because they're like, these microaggressions, what do they mean? And but I'm like, you kind of don't understand because most of your life you've never walked into a place, and a lot of things that can be very harmful, especially like in communities like mine. It's not as explicit; it's implicit. Meaning like it's already implied that you ain't supposed to be here. So we walk through and navigate through so many spaces. No, I'm not even gonna name the organization, but I remember one time we had like a community meeting about things that were gonna happen in like Livernois and Linwood, and we're meeting in one of the Renaissance Center towers. I was like, man, I had to go through like 4 different security checkpoints to get here.
Yeah.
Now I'll do it, but I'm just already telling you, it's still like in the back of my mind that it's like, damn, I got to go through 4 security checkpoints to get here.
Right.
And there's going to be certain people in my community that will disconnect alone to even sit down and just, have the conversation about what we need to do in the neighborhood where I'm at.
Yeah, you can't even get there. You can't get to that point.
Yeah.
Because you're already, no, I mean, and I think that understanding, part of the work that we have to do is the socio-emotional components, right? We have to be honest about our history. We have to be honest about even sometimes how we've been treated within our own households.
Yes.
We have to be honest about all that because until we're honest about it, then we can't do. And to be frank, we also have to be honest sometimes about how we treat other people who might have a hoodie on.
Yeah.
Or who might have some baggy jeans on, right? Yep. And so we have to be honest about all those things. But I think where we can all land on, I don't care who you are, Black, white, Latino, Asian, old or young, everybody by birth deserves the right to be treated fairly and well.
As the OGs, Edith Ford and Tony McElwain, they both always say this. It's like they uplift, you want to affirm someone's dignity, no matter where they're at and however they stand and how they present. Because through that, now we become, it becomes a different bond. And, just that deeper connection. And like I say, I know it's small and I know people would be like, that doesn't even matter. But trust me, it does, especially when I think of in my neighborhood. Rest in peace, Eleanor Jositis. Before she passed, a founder, one of the founders of Focus Hope. I've had some very interesting big homies in my life, and our connection, but even connected to our connection was for her office, who would always greet, chew, and go over and beyond, because at one point in time, she had that role with Father Cunningham. I
Mhm.
think he's more recognized as the
Yeah.
founder of Focus Hope. And this nonprofit organization with hundreds of millions of dollars for years and years and years, and relationships with community through the church that's there that grows bigger than the church, and all these relationships. But a lot of it really starts like with rooted intention in some relationships that are just back to the how are you?
Yeah, and the way we phrase it is many times if you're talking about wanting to do this community based work, you need to change the preposition in your sentence. So here's what I mean by that.
Mm,
You could say I'm doing something to a community, and that ain't the right approach, because that's going to feel like you're imposing your will upon it. So let's throw
yeah,
that out. You could also say, which is maybe a marginally better, I want to do something for the community. And, there's some benevolence in that, but it
mhm,
also creates a power structure in which I'm doing something for you. So therefore
yeah,
you need me, right? Is charity, which is not horrible, but it's not the I think the right solution set. The right preposition is with.
yes,
And so we model that. We try to model that every day at Life Remodeled, that we are working with the community. We're learning with the community. We're growing with the community, because you talked about the Durfee Innovation Society. We don't look at it as just being our building. We look at it as being the community's building, right?
yeah,
It's that building was Durfee Elementary School well before it was Durfee Innovation Society. And so we we think about how important that posture with is, not only for the work that we programmatically, but if we're really going to change the architecture and the feel and the vibe and the future of our neighborhoods, it's not going to be a singular effort. It has to be a with. And when we get there, then I think that great things are going to happen.
oh, very, very much so. The width is very key, and because the challenge with four, as you say, is like it still like creates a leverage relationship, which I'm going 360 back to, like I say, arm's length transaction.
Mm,
If we working together, it's an arm's length transaction. It's like it's kind of like, hey, I got time to do this Sunday at 3 o'clock in the morning. We got to get it done. As opposed to like, hey, what's the best time for you? Here go my times, and let's come together on it. Now it's like that those like because here go another. It's like the small things become larger things, and things that it completely get blown out of proportion just because one or two things happened 15 years ago.
yeah,
And that's another key with the width, because now that we have a relationship, we can be a lot more transparent about, look, man, I kind of didn't like how, you know what I'm saying, whatever happened. And it was
sure.
like, okay, that was a misunderstanding because da, 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 da. But if you don't have that relationship, it starts seeming like, it was intentional and they wanted to do that. And, da, 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 da. And it's like, I don't even necessarily think that.
Yeah.
You know what I'm
There's
saying?
so many stories I could share, Carr, but we serve at the Durfee Innovation Society. We serve over
Hmm.
23,000 Detroiters, unique Detroiters a year. But
Hmm.
this one stands out.
Yep.
I was at the door, or close to the door.
Hmm.
Young brother came in, and here's the thing too, man. You just never know what somebody's going through before they walk through those
You
doors,
got that
man.
right.
They may have been, kicked down, dragged, talked about,
Yeah.
busted and disgusted well before they come into the door.
Hmm.
And so they're already coming in disgruntled. And I could tell this young brother was coming in with I'm disgruntled look on his face. And uh he was kind of emanating, that. And so I said, "Hey, what's going on, brother?" He's like, "Man," he said, "What y'all talking about up in here?"
Hilarious.
I said,
Hilarious.
"What you mean?" He's like, "Man, somebody told me y'all talking about jobs up in here." I was like, "Well, yeah, we talk about that." I said, "But tell me about it." He was like, "Look, I don't want to waste my time." I said,
Mm,
"Well, what do you mean by that?" I said, "Look, I just got let go from my job. I just got married. I have
mm,
three children.
mm.
I gotta work." I said,
Yeah.
"Well, look," I said, "Listen, let me introduce you to somebody." And so I took him to the Detroit at work office, and I said,
Mm,
"Look, I want you to talk to this group here. They're going to take good care of you. And then if I see you again in a few weeks, let's talk again." So I did.
mm.
Happened to see him again in a few weeks,
Wow.
and different
Attitude.
continents,
Yep.
different attitude.
Yep.
I want to say he had just passed, or he'd taken and passed a test to get his
Mm,
CDL license,
mm.
and he was a different person.
Yeah.
And I think back to, and I believe he's doing well, but I think back to what if I would have responded to him when he first walked inside the door
Mhm.
in kind to how he was emanating? 'Cause uh, I had the advantage of knowing that, man, he might have just been having a bad day,
Yeah.
but I'm not gonna let him having a bad day stop him from what his future can become. And
Mhm.
I experience stories like that every day. I'm blessed to be able in that position to do so. And, all of those stories aggregate to, transform communities.
True indeed. And it also becomes sometimes, it's a person that gives a blessing that you never would expect because, you know, even to this day, it's like people that be like, your mama did this. My mom's passed. And you
Mm.
be like, for real? You know what I'm saying? And you be like, okay, thank you for the support. But you can have an impact on a person, especially on days like that. So as we get to a close, if a person wants to connect, if they want to give, if they want to support, how do they connect?
Yeah, so, I would say if you wanna learn more about Life Remodeled, please go to liferemodeled.org,
Hmm.
and there you'll find all the information that you need, but if you also wanna just come on by and check us out, we are at 2740 Collinwood Street. You can look up Durfee Innovation Society or Durfee Elementary
Hmm.
School. Each one of those, they'll bring you to the right spot.
Hmm.
Love to see you, love to talk to you, love to have a chat with you, love to hear from you, and see how we can work on, changing our city for the better, collectively.
Definitely, definitely, and I'm gonna give you all cheat code if you ever want to bump into me. Tuesdays, probably like between the window of I would say 7:30 and 9:30. It is if it's above 30 degrees, I'm out there on the track at Central running around. So
Yeah, are you
yes,
out there? What
always.
days? What days?
Usually every Tuesday. I like to go. I mean, it's so cold now. Like any day where I can, I go. If it's above 30 degrees, I'm
Brother,
there.
I might join you one of these days.
Oh man,
Shout out to the Central Trailblazers. They're one of our
all
partner
day.
schools, and shout out to Principal Webb.
Hmm.
Last year, I gotta echo this because I'm very so proud of them.
Hmm.
Their graduation rate exceeded the DPSCD graduation rate average. So
Hmm.
they're on the upswing. We work with those Central students every day. So shout out to Central High
I
School.
can say as a Northwestern graduate, it's always that I'm over there. But Northwestern track is closed because of other reasons. So it's
It's
like
all love.
I'm trailblazing. I've been trailblazing a couple years, but it's always good. It's actually a couple of the people that was at Northwestern that have also come over. You know what I'm saying? Like the day it was really cold and snow was down. It seemed like a whole month. So when it all cleared up, I'm like seeing all the other older dudes out there. It's like, what you doing? You know what I'm saying? Some old boxers and stuff. Man, just be running. But yeah, so classic Detroit is different questions.
Yes.
First one, very first car, year, make, and model, year you got it.
Oh, Acura Integra, great
Okay.
hatchback.
Huh.
I believe it was a 93.
Okay. All right. Where's the first place you went when you got it?
I was in college at the time, so
Okay.
I felt like I was that guy rolling up with that, foreign car
I got you.
up on campus with 215s, that I put in the
Ah,
back.
I can only imagine. I can only imagine the soundtrack of,
Oh, man.
man.
Yeah.
Ah,
I installed it myself.
we got some, like, yeah, the sounds as like, things come in and go. But like having sounds in cars was something that I know you young brothers don't even, I mean, these kids don't even want a license no more. They be like, I'll get my license when I'm 20. It's like, oh,
Missing it.
I was 10 counting down days to 16.
Absolutely.
All right.
Absolutely.
Next question. In the music realm, you're the DJ at the end of the fireworks, Woodward and Jefferson. You get to play two songs. What you playing?
Has to be Detroit all day. So
Hmm.
maybe you said at the fireworks?
Yep.
Oh, uh, it would have to be something Detroit techno.
Okay. I don't know if you.
Mr. Day.
I was gonna say. Okay. I was gonna say the Good Life. Even though I
Or
think Good Life
nah.
may be a little bit more house.
Let's go. I'll start off with DJ Godfather,
Okay.
Godzilla.
Okay. Oh yeah. You're gonna have people partying. It's like, hey, lead the fireworks. I'm about to jit.
And then I'll go to Mr. Day. I'll paraphrase a song
Okay.
on the beach.
Okay. I got you. I think with that, yeah, you're gonna have some people partying. They
Absolutely.
gonna
It's a good time
you
with the
you talk
fireworks.
about Morningside and Conant Gardens. Somebody gonna hit the Aeroflint.
Absolutely.
We're like, look at them. Yes, yes. Best Aeroflint I've ever seen was them East Side dudes. Last question. You could rename Woodward after one Detroiter. Who would it be and why?
Mm. I'm gonna take a stab at this, and uh, good friend, so I hope she hears this.
Mm.
I would name it Mayor Sheffield Drive.
Wow. Okay.
I think that this is a historic election.
Very much so.
She is our first African American woman mayor.
Mhm.
I think that she's off to an incredible start to her first term, and I think that the best is yet to come. So even if I couldn't name it now, I think maybe 20, 30 years from now, Augustus Woodward might have to be renamed.
Well, with what you said, definitely monumental race. The Sheffield administration is already done a lot of taking actions and open departments and connected to people in community, but let alone because Detroit is full. Detroit is full, and this may actually be the greatest asset in Detroit. It's full of so many um, brilliant, industrious, committed Black women that add so much of the creativity to everything, including the people themselves that are here. And so many of them, especially when we think of, I definitely know that federal politics don't have a whole lot to do with local politics in the same thing of election, but so many sisters really felt a lot of what happened in the election last year from a federal lens was the personal attack against them directly. And in a lot of ways, there was some truth in that. So this victory for many women here in Detroit and that have lived in Detroit has been something for them to even say, like, look, we're going to pour and be all success because we don't never want to see a repeat of 2024. With that being said, thank you, Mr. Smith. This was fun, man.
I appreciate you, brother. I appreciate you having me on.
Yeah.
And speaking of a brilliant Black woman, I'll shout her out because she's sitting in the room.
Yes.
Aisha Paul, our incredible PR consultant and dear friend, is one of those brilliant Black women. So
yeah,
shout out to her.
She definitely, back to like the affirming thing. She walked right over during the policy conference, like, look, we gonna get. I'm like, say less. I got you. I'm like, they in the neighborhood. I said, we should have been doing something anyway. I remember when Dewan, that's my guy, Dewan Dandridge, was like, Dewan, like my poor man Dewan impersonation. He was like, yeah, man, we did a Super Bowl party or something. I do these fight nights usually. And being that I've already text messaged all my friends that I'm begrudgingly going to get this Mayweather return bout, but I may do something. I think that may get more energy. I remember the largest fight thing I ever did was Pacquiao versus Mayweather. I know you guys have done sports related things before, and I know a couple of these boxing folks too. Shout out to Joe Louis and them. But yeah, we may do something. That may be a good collaboration to do.
Let's talk.
All right.
All right, brother.
Peace.